Welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be going over a new tool called the Add Cube, or just the Add Primitives. It's a new tool that's not in Blender 2.8 yet. It is actually in 2.9 alpha. So if you're in 2.8, you're not going to be able to see this. You'd have to go to Blender right here and then go to Experimental and download the alpha. But this will be coming. I just wanted to give you a heads up of what's coming down the pipeline. So this is the Add Object tool. Essentially what it'll do is let Blender be a little bit more like SketchUp or maybe like Fusion. So you can like just add shapes directly onto other shapes. So pretty cool, but let's just dive into where it is at the moment. So we're just going to do General and let's save the project. Everybody save your project. It's a good habit. So we're going to call it Add Tool. So the tool will appear right here at the bottom, right below the measure tool. And again, if you don't see this, it's because you're in 2.8 and you're not in 2.9 alpha. So if you're seeing this, if you click and hold on it, notice you can add cubes, you can add cones, you can add cylinders, you can add UV spheres and icospheres, all kinds of stuff. They're actually going to add another one called Add Plane. So that's coming. It looks down the pipeline. But for now, we just have these 5. So let's do Add Cube. And we've got some tool options up here. We've also got some tool options over here. And we've also got some tool options over here. So, anywhere you want to play with these tool options, be my guest. I'm just going to do it right here up at the top. And so we're just going to leave it at default, which is Surface Z Orientation Base. So notice if I have this selected, I can click on the surface and kind of drag out a little cube here. And notice it's starting where I started the click, right there on Suzanne's forehead. And we'll scale it out. And then once I let go, it kind of leaves it, kind of confirms that square right there. And then if I lift up, it will bring up a cube. Or if I go down, it will do the opposite direction. So that's pretty cool. And once you click again, it will lock in that shape. And there's still some bugs going on here. You can see that the dimensions here are not the dimensions here, but like I said, it's an alpha. So just playing around here. So I'm going to go into render mode so you can kind of see what we're working with here. But notice where I clicked, it made that box right there. So you could just make little cubes. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Another thing you could do is change the origin from base to centered. And so say if I wanted to put something right there on the very center, let's go ahead and get rid of these. So if we wanted a square right there on the top of her head, I could click right there. And notice now, instead of coming from the corner, it's actually building out this square in all directions. And that's because we have the origin set to center. So we'll just do, maybe we want like a cube on her head, and then we can scale it up. And notice that it's actually going in both directions from that center point on her head. So the last one just did it from the ground up. This one's going from the center point. So depending on what you're trying to do, that will, this little drop down will be that deciding factor. So it's all building from the center origin, wherever you clicked first. Let's just go ahead and delete this cube. Another cool thing is if you hold Control, it'll turn on the snapping. So notice I can snap to these little origins right here. This little circle appears when I hold Control. So I can hold Control, click and drag, and then press Alt. And Alt switches you into center mode right there. Or I can let go of Alt, and now I'm back into base mode. So that's pretty cool. You can also hold Shift, and that will lock it in so it's exactly even on each side. And I could go up or go down, but if I hold Shift while doing that, it's just going to lock it in so that it's a perfect cube in every direction. So again, just to clarify and kind of drive this home, click and Alt will go from every direction. Just clicking will do, growing from the center. Shift will keep it proportional. And once you let go, you can do Alt from both to go to both directions, or you can hold Shift and that will lock the dimensions proportionally. So a lot of different options. Like I said, this is still early in this tool's life. So I'm sure there's going to be lots more cool effects that we're going to be able to do with this. Let's go ahead and delete the cube. And again, we can do this with all these different shapes. It's essentially the same thing, but let's say if we wanted to add some cones, maybe we want to add some cones on her eyes here. We could change the origin from Z to maybe Y. And we're still on surface, and just click and drag. And there we go. We've got little eyes and then little spikes coming out of the eyes there. Or if we're in center mode, we could click right there in the center, drag it out, maybe hold shift to keep it nice and circular, and then drag out. And so notice the difference. This one's more inside of our head because we were doing center, and this one is just right there on the edge from where we clicked. And then also we could do cylinders. Let's do it maybe on the X. So these are going to make the cylinders go down the X axis right here. So we could click and drag on the surface, hold shift, bring it out. Look at there, we got some Frankenstein little pegs there. You hit G, kind of move them around. Looks good. Or if we're in base, then if we click and drag, hold shift, drag it out. Notice that is way out here for some reason. Not sure why I did that. Again, this is still pretty new, but maybe I'll just change my view, click and drag there, and it's just locking it on the x-axis. We can drag it out, boop. And still, again, not sure why it's not doing the surface, but it should be. So maybe there. That's a little better. And we can G and X, bring it in. So that kind of gives you an idea of, what can be done here with this tool. It's not that impressive right now, but I think once they get it to where you can build things off of the surface, like maybe these slanted polygons here, and a cube or a cylinder just pops right off, that will be a lot more impressive to me. But like I said, they're working on it. Another thing you can do is instead of surface, you can do the same thing with the 3D cursor plane. So notice where the 3D cursor is. It's right in the center origin right here. So if I made a cube, and I'm going to switch this to Z. And so notice if we click and say we wanted to put a cube right on the top of our head, it's not going to let us do that. Or it looks like we did, but really from the side, it put the origin point of the start of our little cube here even with the 3D cursor. So to show another example, if I move the 3D cursor maybe over here and come in here and maybe draw a cube way over here and go up. If we go to the side view, notice it's even with the 3D cursor. So it's really just placing it where you want. So maybe you want a bunch of cubes right even with the top of her head. Don't know why you'd want that, but you could just come through cubes. Maybe they're all clouds that need to be at the same height, something like that. So notice they're all on that plane. And there's another option, 3D cursor view. It says start placement using the mouse cursor projected onto the view plane. And I've been playing around with this, but I can't get it to do anything. It just seems kind of seems similar to the surface and kind of just puts them randomly. So this may be a bug, but if you can get it to do something, let me know in the comments or the discussions up in the top right, and I'll give you a prize. Yeah, maybe they're just work in progress. But essentially, that's just some of the cool tips and tricks you can do with this new tool that they're working on. And let me know if you like it, what you don't like. Let me know if you hear anything, updates on this in the Discord, and I'll update this video accordingly and make sure we have the latest and greatest. All right, well, thanks for watching, and let's go ahead and jump into the next lesson.